A very good morning, everyone, and welcome to the AI, ML, and open source track here in Hall 2. My name is Justin Jacob, and I'll be your host and MC for this track. We have some brilliant sessions lined up for all of you. And like Shreya mentioned this morning, we have an impressive list of esteemed industry stalwarts lined up to enlighten us with their stories, break down industry trends, and to empower us to tap into our limitless potential. But before we start, just a few housekeeping announcements. I'd like to request all of you carrying mobile phones as courtesy to our speakers. I would request you to please ensure that you switch your instruments off or turn them to the silent mode for the duration of the sessions. We'd also like all of you to please take note of the exits. In the unlikely event of an emergency, we have two exits on either side. We have exits on the left-hand side of the stage and on the right-hand side, and of course, the exit right behind, the same way you walked in. We'd also like to reiterate the importance of adhering to events, code of conduct to ensure a respectful and inclusive environment. We'd like to start on time, so without further ado, let's dive right in, shall we? We begin with our first session for this track, which is a panel discussion on the topic, Building Inclusion-Based Generative AI Applications from Ideation to Deployment. Let's learn from our panel about the journey of creating inclusion-focused generative AI applications covering best practices for embedding diversity and inclusivity at every stage of the AI development process in this very interesting session. Please welcome our speakers for this panel discussion. Give them a round of applause as I introduce them to you and invite them onto the stage. We have with us this morning Shalini Kapoor. Shalini is Chief Technologist for AWS APJ, Public Sector. She engages with key executive stakeholders at government agencies, public sector undertakings, education institutions, healthcare, and non-profit organizations to shape policy, transform culture, and implement change. Welcome, Shalini. Joining Shalini on stage is Sugandha Sri Kantaveshwaran. Sugandha is the Managing Director for Digital Solutions India at S&P Global. In this role, she is responsible for delivering the digital solutions technology roadmap by collaborating with business verticals, building critical skills, and fostering technical innovation. Welcome, Sugandha. This panel discussion will be moderated by Neha Chowdhury. Neha is a seasoned leader in product and program management with over 18 years of experience bringing expertise in identity and access management, artificial intelligence and generative AI and agile methodologies to her role as Director of Product Management in S&P Global. She's committed to advancing tech solutions through efficient cross-functional collaboration. I'd like to request you to please give them all a very big round of applause. And with that, it's over to you, Neha.
Thank you. Well, today we are going to discuss about inclusivity in building generative AI. Generative AI is a topic I think everybody is very well aware of now. In this rapidly evolving landscape of AI, the focus of creating inclusive generative AI solution has never been more crucial than now. Between 2021 and 2023, the proportion of AI professionals acknowledging the bias as a critical challenge grew significantly. And this particular segment grew over 20%, the acknowledging of bias in generative AI and working towards reducing that bias. The figure underscores the growing awareness and urgency.
Make it closer.
Closer, okay. Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, yeah. The figures underscore the growing awareness and urgency to embed inclusivity in generative AI. Today, I am joined by two esteemed panelists, Shalini and Sugandha. Shalini, as she has already been introduced, is a chief technologist in AWS APJ Public Sector. She has over 27 years of experience, and she is a very seasoned leader with 15 patents and 4 IEEE papers. She was also a fellow IIBM and a VP before joining AWS. And Shalini has also written a book on AI, which is AI for You, the New Game Changer. She's passionate about women in STEM and tech enablement in societal reforms and academia. So a big round of applause for Shalini. We also have Sugandha Shrikanteshwaran with us, and she has been introduced as the Managing Director of S&P Global. She is responsible for delivering CIO technology roadmap. Sugandha is a very passionate leader, and she is she is leading the business verticals and also leading the generative AI strategy for the editorial design and published enterprise section. In her prior role in IBM, she led the creation of Red Hat Center of Excellence, for the hybrid multi-cloud transformation in IBM. Sugandha is an active speaker in various forums, internal and external both, and she's very passionate and responsible for organization growth and women in technology. So a big round of applause for Sugandha. All right, so let's get into hearing some insightful answers from our panelists. So Sugandha, tell us, how do you define inclusion in context of generative AI, and what are the core principles guiding industry approach to include AI?
Thank you, Neha. Good afternoon, everyone. We are hoping that given all the journey over the last, 20 plus months, what generative AI has brought and traditional AI setting, which is over, decades, I think we are hoping this is going to be a session where we can learn from each other and from all of you through the questions. So I think inclusion, or thinking about inclusion when designing generative AI applications, maybe we should take a step back a little bit. And I was just reflecting on 2 points I heard at the plenary session, right? Something that Brenda said, and something that Devjyoti said, right? Both of them, in fact, I was thinking, Shalini, that Devjyoti should be on this panel with us. They both spoke about how inclusion is important in bringing up the equality or the equity amongst all of them. And the thing is, when you actually use technology, how can you reduce the gap that is coming up in the society because of, AI? Both of them emphasized on this, and I think this panel hopefully will address some of the decision or design principles you can take in to avoid, excluding information or people. So let's start with design, right? I think technology at every inflection point, what I've noticed is it's brought in some aspect of inclusion. I remember when the whole mobile apps revolution or evolution happened, it enabled a lot of people in the who are physically challenged to actually take advantage of the platform to build solutions to help them become more, navigatable and, embrace what is happening around. Now, when you start forwarding to now what generative AI is brought forward, not that AI didn't do it, but generative AI has just reduced the barrier to entry, right? So now when you start looking at it, it's even more focusing on inclusion. Now, if you take this definition and you take a generative AI application, it has multiple layers. And what are those layers we talk about, right? It has data, the process, the whole idea of who is going to access the data, the whole aspect of interacting with LLM models, the application design itself, right? All of these layers or components are going to impact how you bring in inclusion. When you look at data, you're thinking about where is this data sourced from? What forms the basis of this data? Have the reach been taken to actually bring in all aspects or all of the data? That way it is actually inclusive and not excluding. If you want to take an example for this, right? I'll probably take 2 examples. One is, I was reading about this situation where job opportunities were denied for some of the genders only because the data sets or the algorithms were not actually recognizing them. So people who were eligible but did not fit in the algorithm rules were excluded. Think of data that you're using to maybe identify oil wells. So this is a regional inclusion we're talking about, right? So say if you do not have data from various sources, various geographical regions, it's a possibility that you're excluding those data points which can bring up some of those areas where you can potentially have oil wells, right? So I think the whole data aspect is very important when you're looking at the inclusion stuff. Secondly, we spoke about LLM models, right? And I will probably combine that in the data context, but there is another aspect of it. How are you interacting with the LLM models? The prompts, they can themselves create some kind of bias. So how do you really focus on the prompts which you're using to interact with the LLM, and how can you eliminate or reduce the bias to as much as possible, and then reduce it or eliminate it fully, right? The next I spoke about processes. Process by themselves can be excluding sometimes. And it all depends on who is sitting together, defining the process for the development of the AI application. Because you can exclude certain underrepresented people or certain regions. So how do you really look at the whole process angle? The last is application. I think you all must be following the elections this year. In India it happened in the US and so many other countries, right? And every country was publishing this whole aspect that do not get skewed, do not get carried away by all the messaging that is coming. Because what is happening is the applications that are rotating around, that are floating around, the information that people are actually tapping into AI can mislead people to thinking or assuming or asking different kind of questions. So how do you really make sure that applications do not bias, right? So thinking about designing with the application is very important. So if you sum up all of this, design principles or design thinking that was introduced about a decade back but became very, very popular, I think that should be taken into account. The whole aspect of personas, behavioral journeys and experiences, they should be considered, and I think that will help with bringing in the whole inclusivity while designing generative AI applications. I don't know, Shalini, anything you want to add? Or?
So first of all, thank you. And, it's great to see Grace Hopper being alive again. I remember 12 to 13 years back, I started coming to Grace Hopper, and it was so much of fun. Fun because, there's so many friends around, right? I mean, it's just women. We can chat, we can gossip, and we can talk about our career journeys in such a free-flowing manner. Having said that, let me, I see some people standing at the back. If you don't mind sitting, then you can come in the front because there's a lot of space, but you'll have to sit down. So if you don't mind, and I'm sure the sound system is a bit, you have to strain your ears. If you don't mind, come sit, but it's on the floor, sorry. So let me talk about some of the inclusivity in technology first. Whenever a new technology comes in, and being in the industry for last 27 years, as she pointed it out, my age, whenever a new technology comes in, the first thing is it democratizes and makes it available for the marginalized communities. When internet happened, for that matter, the coming of internet was giving access to remote areas in the world, making applications and e-businesses form which were unthinkable, which were absolutely unthinkable. The way Amazon was created and it started retail by starting books itself is a story which says how it rode on to the internet era which was going. And a similar trajectory happened when cloud came in, when cloud technologies came in, because it democratized again the access to technology, taking it to the remote corner of the world as well as India, making skills available to all the marginalized communities and making possible when the infrastructure in your own infrastructure is difficult, but now you can spin off virtual machines, you can start accessing services, you have the whole world open to you, and a lot of internet scale businesses got born because cloud technologies are available. There was a time when, as AWS, we saw that startups grew with us. They became unicorns because they started on AWS, and then today they are like full flourishing businesses. Gen AI is next technology, right? It's the next thing which is happening. And again, the marginalized communities are going to get a lot of edge over it. Now, what are those marginalized communities? First of all, women. A lot of women are still out of the workforce, but it's not just women. It's again the tier 3, the tier 4 cities. And there are bigger challenges now. The challenges are not about access. The challenges is not about business. But there are challenges in healthcare, in education, in agriculture. And these are the United Nations, like, the Sustainable Development Goals that we talk about, where access and usage, and not just access, usage, decision-making capability has to go to the marginalized communities. So and with AI, having inclusive, we have a chance, and this is a chance that we have, that we build inclusive technologies which actually reaches the last mile. So I'll give an example. We built, we talk about the power of Gen AI. We have a startup started by a woman again. So, women understand definitely the problems of women. So she started it's called Periwinkle Technologies, and it took the problem of cervical cancer. Cervical cancer screening needs a hospital, a nurse, a device, and a physical apparatus to do it. But they created an AI model which can screen cervical cancer in a faster manner than need of all these, the physical infrastructure which is required for that. And that technology itself has reached, like, 2 lakh women in villages, in states, and the corner of the society. So that's an example where a woman understands, coming from marginalized, uses cloud, uses Gen AI, and is catering to the inclusivity and bringing in inclusivity by the solution that she has created. So inclusivity has to come in and Sugandha pointed it out, it has to come at multiple layers. Building solutions is one of them. Conceptualizing the data is one of them. Ensuring that the data model has the data which is right and which is inclusive enough is another. And when I say inclusive, there are a lot of concepts. I know it can carry on, but there is a concept of fairness, there's a concept of bias, there's a concept of explainability, what the model is intended for. So there are various layers to it, and which I'm sure in some parts of the panel we'll cover as Neha asks us those questions. But I'll give the moot point that it's the time for us to make inclusivity and ensure that with AI, we bring in these concepts at every layer. It's not just responsibility of the users or the builders.
That's correct, Shalini. Thank you, Sugandha and Shalini. And one of my favorite inclusive app that I feel that our government of India has built is the Kisan AI. I was reading about that. It's a multilingual app, so it takes care of inclusivity, last mile connect, personas. So that's something that I'm really very intrigued to know that we have reached a stage where we are, covering all of these points. Okay, so as Shalini said, let's move on. All right, so I have a question for Shalini. Shalini, since you do a lot of work with government, what is the vision that Government of India has with regards to AI, and how AWS as a cloud provider partnering and helping achieve that vision?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, the Government of India has laid down a pretty comprehensive India AI mission, what they call it. It's a 7-layer mission. Like Sugandha said, it's multi-layer. It has got skills. It has got on GPUs. It's got on data model, data gathering. So there are the applications that need to be built on top of it. And it's a very expensive, and I would encourage you to have a look at it, because a lot of startups who are building for India and within India, but for the globe, they actually go through the stack that the India AI mission has put together. So I encourage you to read that. It's available on their website. I'll take some time to explain how we are bringing in inclusivity. So for us, of course, the AI is 3-layered. The first is the entire compute, where we have compute our own chipsets, which is Inferentia and Trainium. We also have NVIDIA as our biggest partner, so we offer that. And a lot of people just bring AI models and put it on our compute. Then we have Amazon Bedrock. Amazon Bedrock, it's very inclusive in nature because it doesn't talk about a single model. It's a multi-model. So we have Anthropic, we have Mistral, we have Cohere, we have Llama. and build your own model. You can bring your own model and bring it, and it has bias mitigation. It has got toxic filters, so you can bring your own model, and based on what is applicable in your scenario, in your industry, you can actually tune the model based on that. And you can put a toxic filter even if you don't want to tune it. You can just put toxic filter for words, for names, for sentences. You can do that. And at the top layer, we have the applications and the services which are available, like Amazon Q, which is basically no code, low code, and you can migrate code from SQL libraries, and for 400 SQL algorithms can just get translated in like couple of hours into say Python. So our stack has at multiple layers. How we build inclusivity into that is, I'll give some examples. If you see that there is a lot of issue on image and image generated out of AI. And as a woman, I am scared, and I'm sure each one of you is scared that, what if certain kind of image gets scared and about us? So what we do is, and we realized it early, we watermark every image which gets generated through our platform. So we have a concept of watermarking it. So the metadata has the details of who generated that image. It's an AI generated image, and what data source was there to be able to do that, right? So that gives a power in this. See, ultimately technology is power in the hands of people. So this gives the power to the user to actually, tomorrow there is an issue, who's created that image and what led to the source of it. Other examples are, we have a service called Amazon Recognition, AWS Recognition, which does Face ID. So what we have done is, the data is across 6 different geographies with different color of skin, and of course different facial features, so that the answers are not specific to a certain, or is only for white population, or has left out black or a brown population. So there is a lot of feature inclusion that we have done in our base product itself. Inclusion is also about how do you enable the ecosystem, and the ecosystem skills is a very important part. So we want to encourage tier 2, tier 3 cities and women especially in these areas to come and learn skills. So we have a lot of AI skilling programs which are, and like Amazon Restart is a program where women who have taken a break in their career, they want to reskill, and they just want to come and, with AI technologies and apply into various jobs. So Amazon Restart is a program like that. We also do the skills. We have special programs in higher ed education institutes, so that there could be, AI cloud clubs, there are AI clubs, so that there are more people who get enrolled into it. In fact, we did an Asia Pacific study on AI skills, and we found out that the hunger in women to learn AI is much more. So, and they were like 73% women compared to few basis points lower men who wanted to learn AI skills to improve their career progression or career profile. And we also found out that actually if you learn these skills, then there are 55% of the people who said that they can be a 55% of the organizations who said that there will be a base pay increase if you learn AI skills. So there is a lot of work that you have to do in the entire area to make things happen, and it starts from the skills. You skill people. Of course, you have technologies which you can use. You can de-bias them and then make it available to the outside world.
That was great, Shalini. And I would agree that there's a lot of hunger in women in learning AI and scaling up and learning new technologies, everything that is emerging in the market, right? Now, with that, I have a question. You both have been very seasoned leaders, so we would want to hear from you. What role, Sugandha, the leadership should play in ensuring that we are inclusive. You talked about, inclusivity starts from design thinking, from the beginning till the end, right? So while gathering the data, starting from gathering the data to prompt, so what role should leadership play that we are inclusive?
Sure thing. I think I'll also stretch a little bit on your question because I was listening to what Shalini was saying, right? And she was talking about the reach of AI to teach people in various areas. I'll bring the whole corporate or the enterprise view, and I will let Shalini complement with the broader view, right? If you take each enterprise, if you really go and look, everyone is investing in bringing their entire organization to a readiness level to understand where AI, and that's something that every enterprise is focusing on. That is important because everybody may not be actually developing an application, everybody may not be actually building those data sets, but they could be users, they could be the people who are signing off on the legal clearance for that application that you're building. They could be the people in the corporate function of HR who are trying to understand, like, how do you really fix the pay gap and how do you really ensure that the organization has the right talent and it is taking care of the whole inclusion aspect, right? So I think the awareness of AI for everybody in the organization, how do you really use this, is very, very important. That's the first thing. Now, second thing is how do you enable that skilling so that people are aware? I think there are platforms out there, but there are companies, and we have actually invested that way too, to build our own platform so that we can bring people to develop the use cases. There's no restriction. We spoke about safety of data. We spoke about, is the enterprise data going out when you're using those models that you're using from outside vendors, right? So how about enabling the people to have a sort of a gateway and then, enable them to connect to those models? So that is the second thing, providing them the platform so that people can innovate, so that they can actually look at the use cases. That is the second thing. The third thing is the composition of the people in any project. So if you go back to your organizations, you are going to see that everybody is investing in not just AI developers or AI quality assurance engineers or product managers who know AI, but they're also getting surrounded by people who are cybersecurity experts who know that it's no longer just the regular SQL injections, but it's the prompt injections that need to be taken care of. You're looking at, like I said, the legal folks, because AI-generated content, how is it acceptable to a client? There are clients who will always question, what data did you use? And you, in turn, will question the model providers, what data did you use, because I'm using your model, right? So that's the next thing, which is the composition of the teams. That is going to be an interesting and an important aspect for the leaders to always look at. The next aspect, I wouldn't say last, because this is a topic we can go on and we are experiencing it, is many a times you will notice there are folks, we call this like the frozen middle, who are, in a state of like, should we accept this? Should we really invest our time? Should we really try, or it's a fad? Every time there's a technology statement, there's always it's a fad or it's a reality. It takes some time, right? But I think it's very important we come out of that phase, because this is almost like those tools that we initially did not embrace, but now use it like a day-to-day thing. It's more used now, and if we are using the tools, we get the questions on, okay, how inclusive is this? Am I asking the right questions and things of that nature? So I think for a leadership, it is important to look at all of these aspects, which is one is encouraging the innovation, also enabling the guardrails so that, there's no compromise on the information of the enterprise or on people's safety. Like I mentioned, right, people can write applications that can, sometimes inadvertently mislead by the conversations you're asking, right? So how do you really continuously monitor? The governance in place is so much important. So I think this is a big responsibility for the leadership. Encourage, at the same time, have the right governance mechanism. Yeah.
That's correct, Sugandha. Governance is extremely important. And as you said, I really liked what you said, that when new technology emerges, it takes time for people to, understand whether it's a technology that we need to adopt. AI has been there for 50, 60 years. It gained popularity only from 2021, and we all know the reason why. All right, so Shalini, you mentioned about AWS talking with, working with startups, and a lot of startups grew with, with the growth of AI and AWS. So can you tell us how good these startups are faring with regards to inclusivity in AI or implementing ethical AI?
Yeah, sure. So, see, first of all inclusive systems, we have to accept that they are going to be citizen scale. You have to build it like that, in that mind. One example I'll give is that, being in the cloud organization, it's my team, and it's a moment of pride. I would say that my team is the one who has built DigiYatra, or who's built Covin, or who's built DigiLocker, which all of us use. These are citizen scale systems, right? They go to so many, they face so many people. So it's definitely our responsibility to build with an inclusive thing in mind, because is ultimately going to be used by, it could be any Indian, right? Any city, any village, any religion, any gender for that matter. And with that thinking, we incubate and we work with a lot of startups, because we know that these systems are going to go, and they'll be used by multiple citizens. Another example I'll give is a company called Cropin. Cropin builds a lot of agriculture data, and they build models around it. And they are Bangalore-based company, by the way, around Kormangla, Jayanagar, somewhere at that area. So they give crop advisory to farmers, to large organizations, of how, with the weather, how the crop cycles would be, and across various kinds of crop. So they launched a micro LLM with us called Akshara. It's actually called Akshara AI, and that's actually giving a lot of crop information to every villager in the country. But now what their next thing is to make it multilingual. It has to be in 22 different languages, because language itself is a barrier, and not every farmer understands English or Hindi or some of the major languages. So how do you make that inclusive language possible is what they are working on. So we work with these startups. There's another startup, again Bangalore-based, called Eka Care. Eka Care has used our Claude 3 models to build and generate health IDs. And as you know, health ID is, in fact, that's a pet project, my pet project, because I worked on that. That National Health Authority has decided to do that Ayushman Bharat digital mission and give health IDs to all the population in India, which are below a poverty line. And this is all our maids, drivers, each one of them. And I'm sure in your society, at least in my society, there's a drive happening to create that Abha ID for every person. So Eka Care went further. They said, using this patient care ID and using the Claude 3 models, I can design a patient care system and advise what medicine, and based on the diagnosis, you can upload your, Lal Path Labs or Dr. Reddy's lab, or any lab report into it, and it can advise and guide your kidney is not, function test is not okay, so hence you should go and visit this doctor. So it is democratized, and using the Claude 3 models on actually, and they have actually blogged about it, so this is available. So this is the work we do with the startup. There is a national problem, health ID. There is a cloud which is available. There is a startup which is wanting to disrupt and build something on an LLM which is available on our platform. So that's how we kind of build it together. I want to add one more point, and you talked about AI being 56-year-old or whatever, I don't know. So AI is not new, right? It's been there for quite some time. And it's, the thinking about AI, and in fact, the history of AI, I have covered in my book, which you can check out. There's AI for You, the New Game Changer. I've actually talked about the history of AI and how it has, the fear of AI which Sugandha talked about, the confusion of AI, and how enterprises like Kotak, we have, a lot of us have a Kotak bank accounts. How Max Life Insurance, which is again a citizen scale, right? Insurance is taken by so many citizens. How Healthify Me, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people who use the Healthify Me app for nutrition and your diet. I use it. So how Healthify Me uses it. And also the India AI story. So the Nirmay, right? I'm sure a lot of you know Geeta, who's started Nirmay. How, for breast scanning, they are using AI. So there are multiple organizations who are using it, and they are covered as part of my book. And one last example I want to cover is which was something which we did at IBM, where AI for CBSE schools. I'm sure a lot of you have children who go to CBSE schools. My children went to CBSE school. And now AI is available as a curriculum in grade 11th and 12th. And that's reaching like multiple schools, and children are being taught on use cases development and inclusive and responsible AI and guardrail, because if you know, everything starts from the children. If we teach our children, the next generation is going to be inclusive enough. So the responsibility is big. Yeah, we all have that responsibility.
Yeah, I just want to add one point, right? You spoke about DigiYatra, and there are two things. We said responsible AI and transparency. At the airport in Hyderabad, I noticed so many ads talking about DigiYatra saying, I'm not saving your data is not stored in these, it's only this piece, because there's a lot of question, and that's why, the citizen awareness is very important, so that you can question and you can also get the responses. So that kind of a response is assuring. And transparency is another key thing that I didn't want to miss out, so I'll just close off on that, right? In fact, some of our applications, we are very heavily data-driven. So we actually publish where is the source of the data coming from, so that you know where it is coming from and you are assured. So that's very important. So transparency is another angle in inclusion that I think I didn't want to miss out, so I thought I'd lay it out over there, especially when you said DigiYatra. Over to you.
Yeah, sure. So we know that DigiYatras and DigiLockers, these have made our lives so easy, definitely. Thank you so much, Shalini. All right, so I think we are almost at the top of the hour. I'd like to conclude this session by, hearing some challenges that, from Sugandha and Shalini. I'll start with Sugandha. What do you think that proactive measures the organizations should take with the rapid growth of AI, and ensuring that with this growth we are not doing away with inclusivity and building ethical AI?
I think I covered some bit at the skilling aspect. So I think the challenges is providing the learning for everyone. That is important at the right pace. And second thing is, not every use case is designed for generative AI. I think having that awareness is important. Otherwise, that famous saying, you're like putting a square peg in a round hole kind of a thing will come up. So I would say very important. Think of where you're implementing, and then always be having that responsibility feeling. I think that's very important.
That's a very good point. Yeah, Shalini, over to you.
Yeah, I think I'll build on to what Sugandha mentioned, and that's actually a core theme I also talk in my book, which is the AI mindset. So AI mindset, in the AI mindset, you need, in fact, my book chapters are divided like that. Like the first is the strategy, which talks about which use case to pick. You are not putting the square and round peg, which Sugandha talked about, that don't, pick AI or pick a use case for anything that comes your way. It's very important that you have a cost-benefit analysis done and you decide that why you are implementing AI, because otherwise it will fail and create a bad precedence. The second is, once you've decided what use case that you want to pick, it's important that you have the talent. And how you pick the talent, it is, and I keep saying this, that AI is not only for STEM people. AI, you need an AI ethicist, and that's why this session, right? You need conversation specialists. So an AI project should have people from all disciplines. And it could be somebody from humanities background or commerce background or whatever. So talent is very important. The third is a culture in the organization. That is it coming from is the top leader committed to AI? Is it that you are doing AI just for the sake of it and showing the product and project and then moving out of it? And also include your business leaders. Do a hackathon in which they understand, they can touch, feel, and taste. So I call the 5 senses of AI that need to be in place. So the culture is important, talent, strategy. Then comes technology. Technology, if you see, is coming later. It's actually coming later because what you will build, how you will build, and you can always decide that. And technology keeps changing also, right? So you need to do your analysis, maybe do proof of concepts in something, and then understand that why you need to do that. And then comes a user experience. If you're not making it easy to use, I'm telling you, nobody's going to use it. The design of the application and the app, like today, I use Healthify Me because it's easy. It tells me if I had curd in the morning, then how much of calories it was. It's so easy, it's so intuitive. So the usefulness and the usability of and the design of AI, I remember when we were in IBM together, we were working on a building, like, the occupancy of the building. And the space planner doesn't understand AI. That person has to understand how many seats should I put here and how many seats I should put on that floor. That person doesn't know AI. So, but that person, there's an AI model telling this person how many seats you should put it actually. There's a lot of intelligence behind it. So how do you hide that intelligence in the nice UI design so that you don't come to know, right? So that's another part of it. So these are like, the various aspects that I have covered in my book, and after every chapter then I cover a case study of a company which is doing it well. That how they have, so that people understand that how it's done. So
That's true, Shalini. And I can't agree more with you that you don't need to be from STEM background. I'm not from STEM background, and I'm driving a lot of AI initiatives in my organization.
And you did a successful session today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this insightful session, both of you. It was a pleasure having you both here. Thank you. Thanks, audience, for being such a wonderful audience.
Thanks, Neha.